turn again now to our worksheet. And I've got a question there for us, and I'm interested in you writing down the first couple of things that come to mind for you. So as you think about success for the next 12 months, and about half of you have already got a business. We've been asking as you've been coming in. About 50% of you have got a business going now, and 50% of you are interested in having a business, aspiring to have a business. Some of you might even be wannapreneurs. I want to have a business. The more I learn about it, maybe the less I want it. But when you think about what you are right now and where you're at, and in 12 months' time, if you're reflecting back going, geez, it's been a successful 12 months, what types of things would you like to have achieved? Start jotting them down. Because we're talking about achieving small business success, and therefore knowing what success is going to look like for you guys is important for me to know, so that I focus on things of more relevance to you, given what it is that you're looking to achieve. Great. So a strong customer base and a good reputation for what you do. Fantastic. Well, the National Australia Bank has recently released some research that they've conducted with people that are aspiring to have their own business or that currently own their own business. And I think you'll find it interesting in terms of the way they went about answering this question, which is what motivates or motivated them to get into business. Now, the orange bar that you see there are people that have already started in business. They've got an ABN number, they're operating. They're out there looking for customers, looking for cash flow. And the people that are in blue are saying, I'd love to have my own business. It's something that I aspire to. It's one of my dreams. And in many respects, we believe now that owning your own business is the new Australian dream. Like many young people are believing and perceiving that the real estate agent getting the quarter block is potentially out of reach. And the great news about wanting to have your own business and aspiring to do it is that irrespective of the deposit that you think you might need and the skills that you think you might need, both of those are eminently learnable. And so it's a dream that is within the grasp of anyone that wants to pursue it. And I know that half of you here today are in that bucket and you've come to the right place. But if we have a look at some of the things that are motivating people: control, reward for effort, passion for the work-life balance, particularly for the orange, people that have started, almost 40-odd% of people, that's one of the key motivators. Those that are in business now, again, 40%, avoiding working for someone else. You've got an idea, you want to get the product developed and get it to the market is a motivator for a group of people as well. And sort of money is also a motivator in some cases. So you'll see, and we've just seen from talking to a few people here already, that people's goals and definitions of success are different with respect to being in small business. And so I'm not going to be here today preaching and talking about instant overnight billionaire success and follow the program and get the digital pills and you too can be an online multi-millionaire in 18 months. I've been in business now for more than 30 years in lots of different businesses, and I'll share some stories with you today. Most of that stuff is absolute crap. Looking to get your money. It looks really elegant. You can press a few buttons, pay a few dollars. Most of it is crap. But in terms of what success is for the majority of Australians in business or that want to have a business, it's control over their future. Not having to have a boss in some big corporation or some bureaucracy that doesn't necessarily treat you based on merit. Having a bit more freedom and control over your time. So they're the things that you're after. What I'm going to share with you in terms of what we've learned in particular over the last 3 years will be very relevant. Success Maps. Has anyone heard of the Success Map program? I'm blessed to see today we've got about 10 members of the Success Map program that we were fortunate enough to work with. Darren Houston from Small Business Victoria has been the manager in charge of that program. For those of you that haven't heard of it, over the last 3 years, the Victorian government invested $5 million in professional guidance and advice to more than 500 businesses here in Victoria that had at least 5 employees and no more than 50. So they got through the initial hurdle of getting established, and then they were able to access some funds and access professional advice in helping them with business planning, skill development, pursuing particular strategies. One of my companies was fortunate enough to be one of the providers of that program, and you'll see some of the brand names up there and some of the different organisations that we work with. I saw someone walked in with a rolled Vietnamese bun for lunch. There's about 40 rolled Vietnamese takeaway food places now. Crocs Play Centre is one I'm going to talk a little bit about today. Anyone heard of Fonda Mexican? Yeah, a few people heard of Fonda, so the guys at Fonda are one. Lord of the Fries? Yeah, Lord of the Fries. If you just walked past the train station there, you would have seen a Lord of the Fries outlet. We've got Qin Communications, Australia's leading Chinese translation and communications company. It's great to have one of the founders here in the room today. And the sorts of industries that these businesses were in a whole range. So hospitality and entertainment, business services, personal services, manufacturing, retailing, financial services. So a broad range of Victorian small businesses with at least 5 employees. In terms of some insights from that, and that's what I'm really going to share today, is what are the 3 big things we learned. As I take you through them, I can assure you that those businesses that are continuing to grow, be cash flow positive, meeting the goals of the owners, so helping the owners achieve what they define as success, the 3 key factors I'm going to share with you today, they are all doing and getting better at on an ongoing basis. Some of the businesses have closed down. Those that are struggling, where the marketplace is moving beyond where they're at, where the skills needed they haven't invested in building, almost universally, 2 out of the 3 they have not been doing. So when we look at this, it's not just about what defines those that continue to be successful, but what can we learn from those that are struggling or that have in fact failed. So you'll see on the worksheet there, I've got sort of number 2, circle what you think the 3 keys to achieving small business success are. Again, I'd like you to take just a couple of minutes to give in your definition of success for you in the next 12 months that you've written in the box above it. And just looking at that list there, there's about 12 or 13. Just put a circle around 2 or 3 of them that you think for you, they are the keys. And then we'll start working through what we've learned from the Success Map clients. Just by a show of hands, who's got marketing skills or attracting more customers? There's one, yeah, like at least half of the audience, okay? What about Google search engine ranking? Right, so I've got a few people who've got Google search engine ranking. Attracting and keeping good employees. I'd say about probably 25% of us. Hello, Daniel. I just didn't notice you there earlier on. So Daniel's from Lewis & Sons, a new brand that's being launched during the Success Map period. Thanks for coming along, Daniel. It's much appreciated. Having a good mentor or network of other businesses to access. It is probably about 25 or 30%. Terrific. Let me kick off with the very first one. Attracting the right customers is the very first of the 3 keys. Now, out of interest, who's ever used one of those online discount type deals like Groupon or Scoopon or Spreets or any number of others? So maybe about half of us. Were they related to like a deal at a restaurant or a cafe food related thing? I know in the case of my family, we often go, oh great, we can go down 5 of us, get all this Indian food for $50. Let's go and do it.
Car wash.
So the car wash, getting the car wash, fantastic. Now, has anyone been back to any of those restaurants and paid full price? So the reason I'm just asking you that question is a lot of small businesses have spent a lot of money on getting these, paying for these deals. You lose money on that deal. Like that restaurant does not make a profit. That's why the deal is so good. But Groupon or Scoopon is making good money. We as consumers grab it and go, fantastic, this is a great deal. And they get some extra customers in that they lose money on that never come back. Whereas their goal was, I want to get them in so they have an experience with us and they'll love the experience and then they'll keep coming back. So when you make any decisions around deals and promotions and those sorts of things, really be thinking about, well, who's the right customer for my business? Particularly if you start low in price in terms of who you might attract in. It's so much harder to move your prices up over time if you've started with a lower pricing strategy. One of the great things about the Harvard Business School when you do the MBA there is you spend 2 years there and you do about 700 case studies that are 20 to 30 pages long, and they're about real businesses. And you've got a particular situation related to the business, you have to read it, do some financial analysis, and then go to class the next day and be ready when the professor calls you out to say, what would you do in that situation? And sometimes the professor will actually have the person in the case study come to the class. Anyone not know who this guy is? You often sort of see photos of him at this sort of age. He's in his late 50s now. But it's Bill Gates. And what he said to us in the class that he came to stays with me today. And every time I meet a small business person with an idea for a new business, I give this mantra. Right? In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice. But in practice, there is. So for any of you that did marketing degrees, I've got some of the interns that work at Your Business Network with us, and what they've learned in their marketing degree is very theoretical. The practical stuff around what works is very, very different. But with respect to that, one of the things that I want to emphasise around attracting the right customers is being very, very clear about the benefits that you're offering your target customers or your target segment, which is a group of customers. USP, who's heard of USP? Okay, most people heard. So unique selling proposition. I don't know about you, but I don't like the word selling that much. Anyone here like being sold to? You hear the politicians, oh, we didn't do a good job of selling it. Well, even sort of, you did a very poor job of communicating what the benefits were that were ideally of value to the people you wanted to communicate it to. USPs are good in theory. Can you really be unique with another cafe? Maybe, did anyone see the news on the weekend of the place, I think down in Hampton, it's making these big, mega, thick shakes, $15 full of all of that sort of stuff. And they've been doing it for a year or so, and a bunch of people are going to go down there and sort of buy that stuff, and that operator's had some time on Channel 7, which is great. But there'll be dozens of other cafes doing that after they've seen that particular story. So USP, from my perspective, is very good in theory. In practice, what works and what is more powerful is what I call the SPV. Now, the SPV stands for Superior Perceived Value. And when it comes to calculating value or thinking about it, value equals perceived benefits minus the perceived costs. Now just think about our own behaviour, and Daniel, you gave us a good example of it just then. You've got this restaurant, you like going to it, geez, then you found some deal you need to pay half price. You knew exactly what you were going to be getting, what the service would be like, the menu would be like, the parking, how kid-friendly it was, all the things that would have been relevant to the benefits you were looking for, and you had to pay half the price. So it's a superior perceived value. It's a no-brainer to take that up. And it's the case with all of us. You'll hear jargon like value added, we've got to add value. I try and drop that from your vocabulary. What are the benefits that we're offering our target customers? Do they perceive those benefits? And that's where branding and marketing communication, promotional communication comes in. Anyone heard of the 4 Ps of marketing strategy? Yeah. If you hear the 4 Ps, so product, price, place and promotion. Well, I'll add in sort of the Bill Lang 5th one here, which I call the people. Ultimately, we are always marketing and looking to sell as a result of our marketing to people that want the benefits that we're after. And so people or target segment is a key element of knowing which are the right customers that we want to attract. Then we start looking at the product. And in particular, what are the benefits that this product is going to deliver to someone? So if I go back to my superior perceived value formula, perceived benefits minus perceived costs, product relates to the benefit side. So does the place. How many of us make decisions largely based on the convenience? The car parking was good, I was walking straight past. I'm going to talk about Lord of the Fries in a minute and what they've learnt with different locations for who their target customers are. But again, place is an element of the benefits that you offer. Do you offer home delivery? Is the contact centre open late at night? Do you respond very quickly when someone interacts with the website? Promotion then is around communication of benefits. So marketing is a big buzzword, we need better marketing. In strategic marketing parlance, it's about making decisions about these 5 Ps. And what often people will say marketing equals advertising equals promotion. In this case, we talk about promotion. Are we communicating the benefits? We don't get much time with consumers, with our target customers. We need to be able to get their attention and get across and build the perception that we've got the benefits that they seek. And so then finally, price. If we go back to our formula, superior perceived value is benefits minus the price or the costs that people have to pay. But price is one element of costs. How confident am I that this particular product's going to deliver? There's a psychological cost with that. Will they offer the money back guarantee? Will they honour the money back guarantee if I go ahead and do it? How hard will it be to get a park? All of those sorts of things. Oh, geez, well, I'm going to have to ask a question and feel a bit foolish because I'm not too sure what I'm asking about. I'd rather avoid all of that. That's a key element of perceived costs. So for those of you that are thinking about starting a business, what we call strategic marketing, or the 5 Ps, is critical around that choice of the right customers for your business and the right combination then of the other 4 Ps. So a few of you have heard of Lord of the Fries? Okay, who's the target customer segment or the target people for Lord of the Fries? Sorry? Drunk people. Right, so the inebriated consumer. Any other thoughts?
Time poor.
Time poor people. Very good.
Young.
Young people. Great.
Thin people.
Thin people. So like, what's this? What sort of product's that? A burger. And what about this one? No, I like hot dogs. We're our first business, and my co-founder Michael Kersey, we had a hot dog business many years ago that I'm going to tell you a story about. But I had a bite of that hot dog. What do you think I would have been expecting for someone who used to make hot dogs?
Meat.
Meat. Exactly right. Lord of the Fries is a 100% vegetarian takeaway food business. Right? Lord of the Fries. So when you read the story, the potatoes are hand cut, and the oil that they use is a particular type of very natural oil that gets changed every day in their fryers. But the fries are the star of the show. And what they've learned is being in locations where there's lots of foot traffic, time poor. So by train stations, there's one down by Flinders Street, one over here near Sutton Cross. There's another one in Swanston Street. Fries as a snack is the key driver. And then people go for the package meal deal for $10.95. Now, we were going through some customer feedback. They've got a big following on social media, Facebook and everything. And we had these emails coming in from people from New Zealand that had it while they were visiting Melbourne, loved the fries, and wanted Lord of the Fries to know about this particular hamburger company in New Zealand that uses this particular Angus beef, and that they should have a chat with them because, you know, while the burger was good, it wasn't as good as these burgers that we have back in New Zealand. But this is an interesting business. The people that started this met working as English teachers in Korea. And they met each other, they came back, and they got a Volkswagen and started going around to the markets on the Mornington Peninsula just selling fries. They were both vegans. But it's now a 20-outlet business about to start franchising overseas. And one of the challenges they've got is around this vegan. And it's very, if you read the menu, it's vegetarian, it tells you. That hot dog is vegetarian. Mustard was good, the dog was a bit funny. All right, Crocs Play Centres. Anyone heard of this business? Yeah, anyone got any children or know people with children aged 0 to 9? So a couple of blokes started Crocs Play Centres, I think about 4 years ago now, wanting to build a McDonald's of children's indoor play centres. Now, in terms of attracting the right customers, one of the things these guys did, which was quite incredible, is they went and used the information that wasn't collected successfully last night by our federal government. So the census of 5 years ago. And they did analysis. They got someone called a demography consultant to work with them, and they did analysis to identify where are the concentrations of families with children aged 0 to 9. Then they mapped them out on a map of Australia. Then they said, where are there fringe locations or places where we can rent brand new big sheds or warehouses and literally bring in brand new equipment so that when you come there, it's a really nice, professional, clean experience. I don't know whether you've been to any other of those little, they're pretty tired, most indoor play centres that families go to. Another ones I used to take my kids to out in Hawthorn. They'd been around a while. It was a fun place, but a bit dirty, a bit grotty. Whereas you go to a Crocs, you know, it's pretty schmick. The second thing they found when they found these locations is there's got to be lots of parking. It's got to be convenient for people to get in and out, particularly on the weekends. Because they had a second product, which is birthday parties. So mums and dads, both working, kids at school or preschool, God, the birthday. It's been a nuclear race, arms race, right, with birthday parties. Oh my God, it's on social media. So that was a very specific target market. They picked the place or the location. They decked it all out nice and clean. I think they're on the way now. I think 3 years ago they had 3. There'll be 17 of these by the end of this year. So they made some very good strategic choices around attracting the right customers. And then have made lots and lots of mistakes, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. Anyone know this guy? They're working on Wolverine 3 now as we speak in the US. But This particular fellow here is a guy called Dieter Roylance, who's an exercise physiologist out in Paran, who has spent his career working with elite athletes. With the exception perhaps of AFL footballers and Australian cricketers, there's not much money that elite athletes in Australia make. I think I read today that the Australian Boomers basketball team has a combined salary level of $30 million a year because of the three guys that are playing NBA basketball that are in that team. But the majority of our elite athletes don't make much money. They don't make much money, they can't pay much money for highly specialised and supportive dietitians, personal training, strength and resistance training. What Dieter's been able to do is product to market. There's only so many hours involved in a day. If anyone's ever been involved in a gym, got one of my trainers here, Ben's great to see. It's a long day, isn't it? Starting early, finishing late. It's a tough business for fitness. Every time I hear a Sage Institute of Fitness ad, like saying, where's the other 30 seconds about the reality as to whether you're going to be able to do it? But it's a tough industry. But what Dieter has been able to do is he's now taken out of his head all this experience that he has and has been able to put it into some software and being able to take what's invisible and start to make visible into a product. And then we sat down and said, well, who would be the better target markets for this versus athletes that don't have any money to pay for what you do? What elements could be delivered over the internet? So it just so happened that one of his past clients, a former Australian swimmer living in New York, worked out in the gymnasium in New York where the Wolverine works out. The Wolverine was coming out and he had a big show on at the end of last year. The Boy from Oz, singing and dancing around the country. Dieter got an introduction to him. We went to work and created what's now called the Meister Blueprint. So the Meister Blueprint, I don't have the picture here, but there's a picture of you jogging, going to training in New York a few months ago, holding the Meister Blueprint training plan in his hand. Now, these shots here are both taken down in Paran. This one was a little video, 10 seconds. Anyone here use Instagram? 850,000 views of the video in 24 hours of the Wolverine just, bench pressing. So the decisions that Dieter's made is he had to move away from the existing customer base that he's had, which only he could charge so much per hour, so many hours in a day, to start to change the product and then think about who are going to be different type of customers. How might I be able to use technology in these customers to globalise? So at the moment, Dieter's been in the US with Hugh for the last 4 months every day, manages what he eats, trains him every day, while he's building up the website to take the traffic when Wolverine 3 goes. And this guy's on the front cover of Men's Fitness and Men's Health. There's going to be a whole bunch of web traffic that comes across trying to find out who the trainer is and how it's all worked. But he's not going to be selling a 6-week program and all the listing of the vitamins to take. He's going to be selling a $1,000 online service to have a blueprint created specifically for that individual. But what he's also been able to do is, so this guy, very friendly, makes the referral to client number 2 for Dieter, Robbie Williams. And he's now just picked up a third one. He hasn't told me who it is yet, but another actor in the US. So he's about to relocate to the US and run this business from over there. Moving into the right customer group. Sure, there's luck involved, but you've got to be prepared to fail. You have to ask. And he's focused on doing a great job for him while the product's getting built. And he's going to have every opportunity for this product to get a lot of attention come March when the movie gets launched. Factor number 2, understand and manage cash flow. Now, for many of my sins, I used to teach accounting at the University of Melbourne. So when I was finishing my law degree, 1985 and 6, I joined the Faculty of Economics and taught accounting. And I went to Harvard several years later and did accounting as a first-year MBA student. And this young American professor came bobbling into class. His name was Professor Pete Wilson. And he said to us, he looked around the room and said, I want you to all be very, very clear about this. Now, I know there's a couple of accountants in the room. Where are my accountants that I met before? Okay, so I told you it was coming. Right? He said, I want all of you to write this down. It stays with me today. Profit is a pack of lies agreed upon by accountants. Absolutely true. Profit is a pack of lies agreed upon by accountants. Then Professor Bill Fruin came in. He was our finance, merger and acquisition professor. said effectively the same thing. He said, you know what? You go and take $10 of profit down to the Boathouse Bar or down to the old Savoy here on the corner and see if you can buy a pot of beer with it. Profit buys you nothing. You take $10 of cash, maybe a swipe card, a bit of a Visa thing on it, and you'll get the beer. Now, this is all understandable. I see it quite often with businesses that are struggling, people that are failing to achieve their definition of success. The bookkeeper, the accountant, they look after all of that. Oh, we made a profit, but now I've got this tax bill. I don't have the money for the tax. I don't understand how we can make a profit and yet have this tax bill. Now, I come from a long family of struggling small business people, and we had our suburban accountant up in Ballarat. He's a lovely guy. And then one day he suicided. And every business that he'd been doing the accounting for, including my father's little business, my father had left school at the age of 16, couldn't read and write. We're all in trouble with the tax office and the stamp duty office here in Victoria. You must learn and understand about cash flow, and it is not difficult to do. The second element of this to keep in mind, associated with cash flow, is forget the fancy. Now, we've got some younger people here, younger than me, as the old 53-year-old who's been around the block a few times. There's all this fancy stuff on the phone. It's like, being Ubered, it's magnificent. But if you don't actually understand what it's telling you and what it means, the dynamics of the money coming into the business and going out of the business, day by day, how that works, it doesn't matter how fancy it looks. This is the place to start, everybody. Piece of paper, calculator, pencil, an eraser, maybe an Excel spreadsheet, but literally start with a piece of paper, calculator, and a pencil in your hand. What's going to be coming in? What's going to be going out? Remember Bill Gates, the difference between theory and in theory, no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is. I'm going to tell you a story about Fonda in a minute because they started with this and have now moved to this, and it's going very well. But this is where they started. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. You know, I often hear people, I interviewed an author of a new book in New York a few weeks ago, and the book is called The Purpose is Profit. I said, you really mean cash flow? He goes, yeah, cash flow. But I know we've got our passion and we're going after our mission and we've got a purpose, but we have to make money, positive cash flow. And you can learn how this stuff works. You do not need accounting degrees. You don't need all of that sort of stuff. If I take the guys from Fonda, so we've got, this is young Tim McDonald, was studying in America, in Texas. And there's a lot of Tex-Mex, they call it over there. Great Mexican food, Texan food everywhere. And he was finishing off his law degree. And he had his mate over here, David Yule. They'd been to school together, I think, at Caulfield Grammar. David had just finished his Bachelor of Commerce at Melbourne Uni. So he comes back. Tim starts working for a law firm, bored out of his brain. I spent 5 years doing this double degree at Monash. What? I'm like, godfather. This guy comes out and goes, oh, I've got a company accountant. He's done his Bachelor of Commerce. So he goes and becomes a firefighter with the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. And their mates had known each other for years. We should do something. What can we do? Blah, 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 blah. Tim goes, Mexican. There's no good Mexican. Like, you know, when I went over the border, there were these things called fondas. Oh, maybe we should look at that. So with no experience in hospitality, these two, with a burning ambition to not be an accountant or a lawyer, decide, you know, before having any children, they were both just married, now's the time. And they get themselves going. Now, this bloke here, does anyone know who he is? Is it a clue? Jeff Harris, co-founder of Flight Centre. Major shareholder in Boost Juice when Janine Ellis went from mucking around with the blender on her kitchen table and on the bench to starting to grow it. What they were able to do is they opened their first one up in Swan Street, Richmond. You guys have been up one in Swan Street, Richmond. And they had this vision as to how it would all work. The theory hit the road and it worked totally different from what they thought. Then they started changing it, tweaking it, opened up a second one here in the city. Now I think we're at 5, and the 6th one is getting built in Smith Street, Collingwood, as we speak. But to the lesson of cash flow, so because they were using their own money, their parents lent them some money, and they borrowed some money from the bank, and we got introduced to them by their bank because the bank said, look, we've got a good little business, we can't lend them any more money. And these things are costing $1.2 million to fit out. Right? To pay the rent, to get it all fit out, to make it Fonderish before you turn the thing on and the money starts coming in. But literally, based on the first 3, within 18 months or so, they're making $500,000. And with some businesses, that's the case. Now again, we don't all need to be having $1.2 million. So the research from NAB that I shared with you earlier on, the average amount of money that people started that had their own business with was $5,000. And they started with attracting the right customer and getting there in terms of what... A lot of those businesses were service businesses. What I really enjoyed with these guys is when I started talking about cash flow, off they went. This came in, we've got to delay that, this is what's going on. They were on Excel spreadsheets at that stage, and then they just moved across to cloud accounting. Has anyone heard of cloud accounting? Now, cloud's a fancy word. Like, if anyone uses Hotmail or Gmail, you're on the cloud. Like, you're using some software that's sitting out there and you've got to be on the internet to use it. So that's all this cloud stuff really means. You use it on the internet. They moved to an accounting software program that would actually link to their bank account, so they could see from the point of sale when people were paying all the way through to hitting the bank account at any moment in time. And now with the 6 stores, they look at any of the 6 stores at any time and they can see on their phone against budget how they're going, how many customers have been in. So they've automated and got fancy after starting with the basics. But why someone like Jeff has invested, and he's invested a few $1 million, is they were able to sit down and say, here are our target customers. Inner city areas, often couples, young people. They pay us before we even cook the food. Now you'll notice in terms of their design, you can't book, right? So a lot of people are, I can't get a booking. Oh, bad luck, we don't want you there. So you can't book. You've got to rock up. If they're full, they put you on the iPad, get your phone number and send you an SMS when the table becomes free. You have to order at the bar and pay the money. So there's none of this sort of coming back, sending the waiter down to get the order, running the order back, sending the waiter, giving them the credit card, coming backwards and forwards. So they've designed the business to attract the target customer that they're after. And they're in these areas around sort of Richmond and in the city and in Windsor, now in Glenferrie Road, about to be in Smith Street, where that target market is hanging out. But Jeff has invested because they understand and manage cash flow. They are totally on top of it. Save time and therefore money. So Benjamin Franklin, the great, generally known as the person that sort of discovered lightning and electricity because he was flying a kite. In fact, one of the writers of the US Constitution. He coined the phrase that time is money. I want to talk to you now about the very first night this business started. So we've got Mike is here, one of the co-founders. Tony lives up in northern Victoria now, and that's a 1986 version of me, 1985 version of me, 30-something years ago. Mike, I think. A bit scary. Anyway, this is Dr. Dog, the coolest town around, the hottest dogs in town. Apparently food vans are the new craze in Melbourne, everybody. But we used to drive this thing around and go out the front of nightclubs and sell. Our target market was the inebriated Lord of the Fries type customer. We wanted to be in a location where there was no competition, where they had a lot of money and they were really hungry and they had the munchies. So we were a mobile monopoly. We would drive this thing around to find those ideal customers. But with respect to the very first night, Bob Dylan, as a few of us in the room know Bob Dylan is, was playing at the Kooyong Tennis Club out in Glenferrie Road. And Mike, I still remember how excited we were because we'd done the calculations. We got the bread roll was 20 cents back then, the Savoy was 30 cents, a couple of cents for the napkin, and then the condiments another couple of cents. So, call it 55 cents per unit. And we had 350 units on board, and we're going to sell them for $3 each back then, which I think today's about $12 or something like that. And we were so excited. We got down to Glenferrie Road, we parked up the earlier version, we had an earlier version of this van that we towed behind a HQ Holden. We had a couple of spare batteries, we had flashing lights, with the gas barbecue boiling the water up, and we had 350 times $2.50 in margin, $800 of cash flow profit. This is going to be fantastic. And we're right across the road from the function. Some people we know came down to see us and wish us good luck, and I think we sold about 6 hot dogs to them. We had a couple each just to test the product, make sure it was okay. So I think we were at about 12. And then the people hardly ever walked on our side of the road. Then the batteries went flat, the lights stopped flashing. We couldn't start the car. And we've got 334 hot dogs, bread rolls and gallons of condiment left. So that night we then ended up getting the RACV to come and get us going. We go, okay, we're coming back again tomorrow night. What are we going to do differently? Now again, we had this grand vision, this grand plan, this theory, and then we hit the marketplace. We met the customers. We were in the wrong place. So on night number 2, we speak to the police officers who are coordinating traffic and see whether they'll let us park just near Scotch College, where everyone's walking down the road right next to the venue. We gave them a couple of hot dogs, protection money, racket money. Sold out within 90 minutes on day number 2. Now, for those of you that work in other organisations at the moment, like your employees, and it's hard getting business cases up and getting budget, but it's ultimately not your money that you're spending, you take a lot longer to learn those lessons than when it's your own money coming out of your own pocket. So one of the key things around saving time is working out where to focus. So if you go to a number of the events happening here during the Small Business Festival, it's fantastic information. Lots of stuff. I was with one with the Small Business Commissioner going through all the regulations on fair trading, and there's this tsunami of information, and you look at it and go, where do I start? I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. Now, I had to do it last night. I got in before it all crashed. Religion, Roman Catholic. Well, not really practising, but baptised. I couldn't find the baptised bit. But the thing about being a Catholic is, and 25% of Australians say they're Catholics, is that you don't have to seek permission. You can ask for forgiveness. And what that means is, don't spend too much time on making sure you're totally compliant with a whole range of different things. But when you get your product in front of the customer, they say no. You've got to be focusing effort and therefore saving time by putting it into the key things that you've got to prove up and validating the business that you're starting. Or if you're trying to grow your business now and getting more customers is the key one, how am I going to go about doing that? So look, I want to talk a little bit about learning. So how do I learn? How do I build these skills? And I'm telling you, they are learnable. You can absolutely do it. Who would subscribe to the general rule of life, and a few of us have been around the block, that the best way to learn is by making your own mistakes? Yeah, it's a pretty common thing. And that's what we made our own mistakes on the first night of Dr. Dog, and we learned pretty damn quickly. Own mistakes is fabulous if you do learn it quickly, so you better be getting some feedback to work out whether you're right or wrong, rather than continuing to tell yourself that the customers are stupid and they just don't realise the great benefits that you're offering. So you better be getting feedback to know whether you're right or wrong in terms of whether it's working, and you better just be careful that the cost of the mistake is not going to put you out of business or rock your confidence that much that you decide to give it away. There is a better way than making your own mistakes. Anyone want to have a guess at what it might be? Other people's mistakes, or I call OPM. So OPM, avoid the mistakes that other people have made. Now we're all unique in this room, and we're all going to start, or we're running businesses that are very unique. They might be in the same industry. We might be trying to have superior perceived value, but we bring our own life experience, our own motivations to what we're doing, our own knowledge and skill set. But there are a number of things that can be learned from a range of businesses and other industries where mistakes have been made. I was at a dinner a few weeks ago with a couple, and I met them for the first time, and I made a couple of big mistakes, as I often do. The husband was a very successful property developer, and I was asking him how he got involved in property, and he's telling me, and saying he'd just been over to an entrepreneur's course at Harvard, and how he found all of that, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, but look, you should talk to my wife. She's the real entrepreneur in the family. Lovely lady, name's Amanda. And I go, oh, Amanda, what do you do? Right, so I just quite unconsciously started talking to him about his business. I'm sitting right next to Amanda. Oh, I had this little business a while ago, did X, Y, and Z. Oh, yeah, da-da-da-da-da. I said, yeah, what did you call it? She goes, Mimco. I said, what are you doing now? I've just started another one. It's called AESC. It's customised, high-end, groovy handbags. But I said, look, I work with a lot of young people in particular that are starting out. You must be getting asked all the time for guidance. What do you tell? She goes, look, it's one of the real challenges I've got. People ask me all the time. And all I can tell them is what I did and how it worked out. I don't know, it worked out successfully. I got to build a business, have lots of customers, really enjoy what I was doing, make some money, have control and freedom, all of those sorts of things. but is what I did actually relevant to what's going to be relevant for them? She didn't know. So other people's mistakes, learning what they are and how to avoid those mistakes is the key way of saving time and saving money. So again, back to our journey. So 1986, Dr. Dog, there's only a couple of food vans around, and there was only a few media channels. So if I go back to my key number one, attract the right customers, promotion's one of the 5 Ps. You promote largely through media channels. So if I have a look at what we had available, with our target consumer, we put ads at sort of Village Roadshow Cinema, outdoor posters you see on the side of the road, or in our case we had the outdoor poster on the moving poster, print, so you could be in newspapers for consumers, various business journals. There was television. We had the ABC and 3 other TV stations here in Melbourne, and there was radio. The ABC and some radio stations. 3XY was still around in those days here in Melbourne. So imagine back then as a small business owner, and I've got to make choices about promotion, it's not necessarily that complicated. This is another business that I got involved in back in 1999. We started this little baby called freeonline.com.au. And back then there was only one way to get on the internet. You had to sort of have a modem attached to a telephone line, attached to your computer, and you would put a disc in, and you click a thing, and it would make this funny noise, and it would connect up. And it'd be like the census experience last night. It has happened before, everybody. It has happened before. And you'd sit there, and you'd wait, and you'd get on, and there'd be a few websites you could go to. Google didn't exist. It was called Netscape Navigator, getting around. There was no Google Chrome. But look at the various options that we had with Free Online in terms of promotion back then. So that's 1999, 14 years after we started Dr. Dog. So there was a lot more print around. They started putting colour supplements inside the Sunday Age, as an example, the Saturday Age. Taxis were starting to do sort of advertising and ambient advertising. They were starting to have more ads inside the back of them than on the outside. Cinemas went from being little cinemas to quite large ones, like in the Westfields. More television turned up, cable TV had turned up, satellite TV. There was a thing called new media. And a part of new media was called the internet. And you could go on the Yellow Pages directories or Yahoo. You could have a listing on Yahoo. And there was a search engine called Yahoo as well. And there's this thing called CD-ROMs. Anyone know what CD-ROMs are? Yeah, I've just actually I'm cleaning out a bunch of stuff at my place, like just hundreds of them. Out they go. I was with a 21-year-old the other day who'd arranged to have a chat with me around making career decisions and things. And we're having a bit of a chat. And I said, look, here's a DVD that I put together a few years ago on managing your career. And I gave it to him and he goes, what am I going to do with this? I took it back from him. 2016, where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. The internet is always on. It's always with us. Whether it's via one of these or via one of these. We've got Apple and some Samsung. It's sharing around. Here's the consumer. This is the similar chart that I just showed you from 1999. But now we've got this other thing. Social media. This is just social media. It didn't exist back then. But coming off there now is social media choices in 2016. When I put this slide together, I was just exhausted. I was overwhelmed. The amount of stuff we've got coming at us all the time, right? All those emails that we subscribe to with 3 ways to do that, 5 ways to do this, 7 ways to do that. Wow, it's just relentless. So back to our friends at Crocs. So Crocs got started, and these are the 2 founders here, I'll point them out to you, Brett and Lawrence. They'd worked together for about 10 years in a national distribution company. Used to travel on business. We're getting bored working in the big company. We should do something. We've got young kids. We're going to do something that could be big. We're going to walk away from their salaries. And they dreamed up Crocs and Crocs Places. When they opened up the first one, we're going to need a cafe in there, right? So we're going to have cappuccinos and muffins and all that sort of stuff. And we need somewhere to cook the sausage rolls up and heat them up for the birthday parties that happen on Saturdays and Sundays. They got motoring along, and I think they were about 3 or 4 outlets when we started working with them. And they had a lot of trouble with having the staff trained properly in terms of cooking the stuff. They didn't really sell it very well. It was all a bit messy. Then we looked at, do you keep trying to open these things up owning them, where you need X $100,000 yourself, or can you save time and capital and money by franchising it? Can we turn this into a franchise where we can bring someone in who's really motivated to have their own business, can use your brand and your systems, and use their capital? So they made the decision to do that, but what they did, which was very clever from a saving time perspective, is they then went to the guys at Muffin Break, which is owned by a company called Foodco. And they said, look, you know, for your X square metres, how many muffins do you sell? How profitable are these things? What's it cost to buy a Muffin Break franchise? And you know, these days, these things are everywhere, Muffin Breaks. There's hardly a shopping centre left in Australia where you can find one, where we can put one. So what they were able to do is they said, look, let's put one into our next one that we open and see how it goes. And it turns out the Muffin Break was 40% more profitable inside a Crocs Play Centre than their own cafe. So if saving time is important, they've already identified the 100 suburbs around the country where they need to get their footprint. Do they spend more time and effort on working out how to run a really good cafe, or do they partner with someone that knows how to do it? And secondly, if they're going to enter into franchising, are they going to get the software and get all the legal advice and do all of those things and find people who work with them, or can they partner with someone that knows how to do that? So this is a little announcement that was made in December of last year, but literally now the guys from Foodco, which own Muffin Break, are now shareholders in Crocs Play Centre. They look after everything to do with the promotion and attraction of new franchisees. They do all of the administrative services, and they provide the whole Muffin Break infrastructure into these various stores. So that's just another example of saving time in terms of where they got to. This business has only been around about 4 or 5 years. To grow it to the next level, franchising is going to be faster, but partnering up rather than trying to do it all themselves is the way to go. Who knows these ladies? Speaking of muffins, the chocolate chip ones, one of her favourites. This lady here is Angela. So the client here is a designer called S. Wallace, a startup fashion designer out in Parang that has very high quality, classic, almost breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburnish style design and materials. But she's got a little shop out in Toorak Road in the sort of Armidale village. And to date, the people that get to the store, that wander in, buy the product. But her target market are more likely of Nigella's age, higher income, well above average income, time poor, into cooking. So in terms of saving time, would it be a good move to get Nigella Lawson wearing some of your gear on MasterChef? So the young entrepreneur here, her name is Shakira Wallace, got lots of no's, lots of knockbacks, but in the end, this is some of her gear that she's been able to get Nigella to wear. The online sales have just started to take off and go through the roof. So in this case, attracting the right customer, someone to wear the gear on the right media, it's going to save her an enormous amount of time in actually getting some cut through to get her product in front. Again, it's not like everyone watching MasterChef then going on Instagram and going, what's she wearing? But some of them did, and now they're on the website and buying. Look, I didn't advertise a fourth, but there is actually a fourth. And if you're able to stay a little bit longer, and I'll be outside, I'm happy to have a chat with you, but I think chatting with each other as well reflects what the fourth key is. We talked about other people's mistakes. Working out what they are and avoiding them is being a really fast way of saving time and learning more effectively. And I really encourage you to work with other people, ask other people, run your product or service concept by them, and you will learn much more effectively in a much lower risk way than totally going it alone. It's a very, very lonely place out there often when you start up something yourself, particularly if it's the first time that you've done it. I've been through it several times. Some of them have been spectacularly unsuccessful. It can be very lonely. You need people around you that are going to pick you up when that thing you were so excited about and you put out there and no one turned up. No one came across the road from Bob Dylan to get a Dr. Dog on that first night. There was something else in the air besides the music, so I'm not too sure whether it was something else to do with the level of appetite as opposed to flash batteries. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But look, the fourth thing is that you'll achieve more together. So get some people around you, meet some other people interested in business. That will give you the greatest probability of saving time, learning and understanding cash flow, and leading that to driving and attracting the right customers.